This episode of Still Loading is brought to you by the wonderful people over on Patreon. Amazing people such as Kevin from the Bit by Bit Foundation, Eric H., Stephen P., Gilmer, and Mr. Biscuits have been wonderful enough to support the show over there. So if you would like to get your name read at the beginning of each episode, as well as a bunch of other goodies, go over to patreon.com/stillloadingpod and check out all there is to offer. On this episode of Still Loading, hi, I'm Daisy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of the Still Loading podcast. I'm your host, Josh Koval, and today on the show, it is the third episode of Mario Month. We are covering Mario Kart Double Dash, and joining me today to discuss the only Mario Kart on the GameCube are two wonderful guests, and both of them have been on the show before. We'll start with the one who's been on, who hasn't been on the longest, and that is Mike from the Unlocking What Was Cool podcast. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Josh. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming on, man. It's been a minute since you've been on the show. I think the last time you were on was in 2021, believe it or not, for the Game Boy Advance episode, I think.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. That was that's 3 years ago. Jeez.
Yeah. I honestly can't believe that we met 3 years ago. It doesn't feel like it was that long. It feels like it was just like maybe a year ago.
Unbelievable.
It's been 3 years. Now, my other guest, returning guest, Veech from the YouTube channel. Well, the YouTube channel has what do you want to call it? Defunct? Is it just closed down for the time being?
Formerly known from that YouTube channel.
Yeah, formerly of the YouTube channel Bite Size Pixel. Wonderful channel, by the way. Like I said, I know it's no longer in operation, but y'all should still check it out. It is a great YouTube channel. But Veech, it has been quite some time since I've had you on the show as well. I think you were last on for the Pikmin episode, also back in 2021, maybe 2022. I think it was actually the fall of 2022 we did the Pikmin episode.
Was it Pikmin? Were we talking about Pikmin?
We did a Pikmin episode together. And it's funny. So that episode, because I played through Pikmin and we covered it.
That's right.
I guested on a show called Tokyo Game Life. Shout out Mono, my buddy. Actually, Mono is going to be on the very next episode, just as a sneak peek for all you listeners. Mono is going to be on the Mario Kart DS episode next week. But I was on Mono's podcast, and he has me on to do some like end of the year stuff. And he always asks, like, what games did you like? What were our top games of the year? They don't have to be new games, just like games that you played. What were your top games of the year? And Pikmin was my number one the year that we did that, because we did this episode, Veech. And ever since then, Mono is now, he had not really gotten into Pikmin, and now he's like a Pikmin diehard, which I think is kind of amusing that all stemmed from us doing our episode back in like 2022. Kind of wild how that turns.
It's a great franchise. I feel like everybody should I feel like everybody could find something that they would enjoy in that franchise, in all honesty.
It's so good. I played the Pikmin 4 demo. I don't have the game yet, but I played the demo and I loved it.
It's great.
I'm excited to play Pikmin 4 at some point. Anywho, we should get into Mario Kart Double Dash now. Get into the game in earnest, as I am wont to say. Mario Kart Double Dash originally came out on November 7th, 2003 in Japan. It was later released in Europe on November 14th, 2003, November 17th in North America, and November 19th in Australia. So pretty short turnaround on those release dates. Not a whole lot of time in between. And it was the only Mario Kart game on the game. I mean, that's actually kind of par for the course. There's generally only one Mario Kart game per system per Nintendo system, but it is the only one to feature 2 racers. There's a whole bunch of new and exciting things about this game, and we'll get into all that as we go through the episode and talk about the things we like and don't like. But of course, we have to start off with our personal memories and personal recollections and everything. Like, how did we first kind of come to this game, and what are our memories with it? So I'm going to throw it over to you, Mike, first. What are like and the reason I'm throwing it over to you as well is that the Unlocking What Was Cool podcast was formerly called The GameCube Was Cool, and you covered this game on your show. So I figured let's throw it over to you real quick. What are your memories with this game?
Yeah, thanks, Josh. I mean, covered this game, I think, about 3 years ago as well, and maybe a little bit sooner than that. One of my favorite games of all time, obviously, and was such a pleasure to be able to cover it as part of our going through the entire GameCube's library of 555 North American GameCube games. This, of course, was one of the biggest episodes. A lot of people listened to it, which was awesome. And you even submitted a little memory in here that we'll talk about later,
Oh,
which is
yeah, I
funny.
did submit a memory. I forgot about that.
But my initial memory of this was I got Mario Kart Double Dash with my GameCube in Christmas of 2003. It was very exciting. I didn't get my GameCube until 2003, so I was a little late to it. I was begging my parents for a GameCube, and I didn't have a console before this. I only had handheld consoles, so the GameCube was going to be my first, I guess, home console. And my parents finally relented. They bought me a GameCube. They bought Mario Kart Double Dash with it. I have the case right here if you want some case ASMR. And I was lucky enough to get the special edition case and special edition Double Dash, which includes the bonus disc on it. Not sure if you guys have seen this one, but the bonus disc has some great games in there that we can talk about later. But yeah, just my first memories obviously are just booting this up Christmas Day, playing it to death. My dad would play a lot with me as well because the whole idea of just having 2 people to be playing this kart racer with, like, I don't think I've ever really seen before, or honestly since, a kart racer that had that kind of ability. And it was great for just like a kid and his dad to play. My dad would be driving and I'd just be in the back shooting stuff out. So much fun. And then obviously kind of like doing a little taunt every time when I didn't have an item. And I just fell in love with this game. I had, of course, played Mario Kart 64, and I played the SNES version as well at friends' houses, especially 64. Like, that's what I grew up with. But this just felt like a whole new world. And I mean, the graphics alone are just miles and miles and miles ahead of the N64 one. And the gameplay of this just felt so unique, and it still feels unique. Like, I still play this game a lot today. I still have friends over and play it. It's really a really timeless Mario Kart. It's my favorite. It'll probably always be my favorite. I mean, Mario Kart 8 being a close second, but yeah, that's those are my initial memories of the game.
Veech, what about you? What are your first experiences with this game?
So I actually never owned Double Dash. I actually never owned any Mario Kart games, but I remember my friend down the street had ended up getting this, I guess sometime in 2003. And it was it was like the first one where you could actually like play cooperatively, because I think you could both be on the same cart. And so instead of like constantly getting mad at each other for throwing blue shells and lightning each other, it was nice to actually cooperate and not get mad at your friend at the end of the day. So that would be like my first major memory of this game, was like actually playing cooperatively with my friend in the beginning. And for some reason, like the GameCube battle stage like really like sticks out in my head.
Yes.
Like it was just such a unique stage. But yeah, it was it was good. It was a lot of fun, and I kind of agreed. I would say, like, especially back then, like I played a lot of Mario Kart 64, but I think what Nintendo did with Double Dash just kind of like reinvented the expectation as to what like a Mario Kart game should be.
It's interesting because when they were developing Double Dash, they really tried to reinvent 64 specifically. A lot of the developers during development would play Mario Kart 64 kind of in their off time as a way to kind of get the feel of what they wanted to do with the game again, and kind of like how they wanted the game to overall how they wanted to approach designing the game. And I'm glad they did that because it kind of set a good foundation, but I'm glad they didn't stick to that. This game does not feel like Mario Kart 64. And I mean that as a compliment. Not saying Mario Kart
Yeah.
64 is bad, but you don't want it to be the same. You don't want it to be a carbon copy. You want just enough things to be different. So that way it feels like it's its own unique game and you're not just paying, 60, 70 or $60 for the same game that you got 6 years prior. You know what I mean? Like you
Well, I
want
think this is
something
the
new.
last game in the Mario Kart series that actually has all new tracks on it. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it is.
I'm pretty sure there was new tracks in Wii
No, I mean
and
all new, I should say. Like no remakes.
oh, no remixes or no reused tracks.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is the last
Oh,
one that is completely new.
that might be okay. Yeah, there are, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 cups. Yeah, 4 cups, and then there's 16 tracks total. So yeah,
Mhm.
I guess so. The other games have more tracks, but this one is the only one that really seems to just focus on all the unique tracks as opposed
Yeah.
to repurposing older tracks on the new system. That's really interesting. I didn't even think about that. You're right.
Hey, I did a whole episode on on this
That's why.
game already. Well, and even a lot of these tracks are kind of stranded on here too. Like there are 4 tracks: Mushroom City, Warrior Coliseum, and Bowser's Castle and Rainbow Road, the GameCube versions that are all stranded here. They have never been ported to any other game,
Not even
and
8
not
with
not
all
even
its
8.
not with all its passes and everything.
Yeah, only 3 GameCube tracks went to 8, which was Daisy Cruiser, Waluigi Stadium, and DK Mountain. Or I should say,
Huh.
went to the passes, and then Baby Park, Dry Dry Desert, and I think Yoshi Circuit. Those are the other ones. So there's 6 of the 16 that are on the Nintendo Switch version.
Is Peach Beach not on Mario Kart 8, or does it have a similar
There's a
track?
similar beach one. Peach Beach is on Wii, though. It's on the Wii
Oh, okay.
version. So there's a bunch that are on Wii. There's a bunch that are on DS. But there's just a couple there that like Mushroom City. Mushroom City is a great course. Like that's one of my favorites. And Warrior Coliseum, one of the few courses I think I've ever played that's 2 tracks only, or
2
2
laps, you
laps
mean? Yeah.
only. Yeah. Really, really cool courses that never made it out. I was really excited to see Waluigi Stadium though, in the new Switch passes
Mm-mm.
for Double Dash or for 8. That was pretty fun because that's one of my favorites.
Now, before we move on with the gameplay, for my own personal history with it, which I do remember sharing in a little write-in for now. Well, I should say I now remember sharing for a little write. The curse of a podcaster, man. I barely remember half the shit that I
Oh
say
yeah.
or write in to other shows. Um, so I've talked about this before on the show where I would have a group of friends and I during college. We would all meet up every Tuesday and eat pizza. We called it cleverly enough Pizza Tuesday, and we just hang out and play video games. A lot of it was Smash, like Melee, and then eventually Brawl. But there was a time that it was either one of the Pizza Tuesday hangouts or we had like a party or something like that. And my one friend brought Super Circuit, and I had never played Super Circuit before. And like I said at the top, it's the only Mario Kart game where you can have 2 characters on your cart at the same time, and you can actually hot swap them in the middle of the race. They each have different they have different overall like perks and benefits in terms of power ups, but we'll get all into that. But my one friend Micah, who's actually been on the show a couple of times, at least once or twice, he played. I forget. I think he was maybe Luigi. I forget who the main driver was, but he chose Luigi, and the other driver that he chose was Daisy. And you know how every time that you switch characters, they have a little tagline, and so I remember for one race like it got quiet for a little bit and he would just keep switching, so all we heard for like 10 minutes was hi I'm Daisy, hi I'm Daisy, hi I'm Daisy, hi I'm Daisy, just over and over and over again. And I will never forget it. It's still stuck in my head, the whole hi I'm Daisy thing, and it amuses me to no end, and I love that. Whenever I play Double Dash, I always have to play with Daisy just to hear the "Hi, I'm Daisy," even though it annoyed the shit out of me the first time I heard it. But
The nostalgia.
it's nostalgia at this point. I gotta. But yeah, let's get into this game now. The biggest differences, and now this, it's funny, a little behind the scenes. This is actually the last Mario Month episode 2 we are recording. So I mentioned this in the next episode, but I kind of like, I shouldn't say I mentioned this. I bring up this point in the next episode, or bring up this idea in the next episode, like what did this game do differently than its predecessors? And then obviously Mario Kart DS did a whole bunch different, which you will learn about. I shouldn't say learn about, which which is talked about next week. But for this one, I mean, the elephant in the room is the double racers, right? They had two racers on one cart. The big advantage to that is that now you could hold two power-ups, one for each of the racers, and then you could switch and go to the other racer who then had the other power-up. And every single racer had unique power-ups that were special only to them, which I think is kind of interesting and kind of cool. The one downside of that is that you couldn't use items to guard yourself. They weren't dragging behind you anymore. But there was tons of other perks. Like it was easier to do like quick startups. Like you could mash the A button and it would, like, before the race would start. So instead of having to do that perfectly timed press when the light turns green, you could just mash the A button, and the other character in the back would just start spreading their legs rapidly, and you could launch off the starting point. So that was really cool. And it also allowed for, like you mentioned before, Veech, it allowed for co-op, where if you were playing two players on the same race in the same cart, one of them was driving and the other one was handling all the items, which creates a little bit of a power imbalance. But I don't blame Nintendo for trying something new. I don't think it was a bad inclusion, because it's not like the game mandates that you play with two players. It's kind of like, with Mario Odyssey, it doesn't make you play with two players, but if you want to, the second player, like, it's perfect for a little brother, or perfect for a little sibling, for them.
You can also change at any time too, right?
And
like
there you go.
if you both press Z at the same time, you change, which is awesome.
Excuse me, this is an American podcast. It's Z. No, I'm just no. Yeah, you can press that at the same time. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of cool stuff, but I want to throw it over to you guys. Veech, I want to start off with you. What about, like, what specifically about the two-player mechanic did you like? Did you not like? What do you got to say about this new addition to the series?
Well, I think because I mostly played it in, like, multiplayer, I did like that. Like I had stated earlier, like, it did allow, like, for actual, like, co-op play. So instead of, like, worrying about if your friend was going to screw you over in a race, you guys could actually coordinate better. I do think it, like, with each character having, like, character specific special items, it made you kind of have to try different combinations to really, like, min max your team. I know I always played as the paratrooper because I think he was the only one that could get red shells as a pickup. So we would coordinate, like, he knew I would play a light character, for the red shell benefit, but then he would play, like, maybe like a mid or a heavier character, so then we could, like, accelerate faster, or, because he wanted, like, a different, like, a special item. I did think that was cool. And that was, like, obviously, like, the big draw of it was, like, picking your team. You didn't have to go with, like, Mario and Luigi. You could go with, like, Mario and Bowser, or Donkey Kong and Peach. Like, it allowed you to kind of, like, keep it fresh every time.
Now, when the two racers were on the cart, did their stats, like, combine depending on which racer was driving? Would it determine, like, the stats? Like, so for example, if you look at what each racer was capable of, I guess it depended on, like, the main cart. So if you were driving Mario's cart, it would go by their stats. If you're driving Peach carts, it would go by Peach's stats. Or I'm assuming the stats wouldn't change once the racer switched, right? It was just based off of the main cart.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's the first one because it's like the first one you choose, is what like determines the cart, I believe. So like when
Mm-hmm.
you're like choosing them, if you start with Mario and like then you pick, I don't know, Donkey Kong, you'll get the Mario Kart.
That's what I thought. But yeah, Mike, throwing it over to you. What are your thoughts on the 2-player mechanic, the 2-racer mechanic? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What are some pros and cons that you felt when you were playing it?
I loved it. I think it's a really cool mechanic that would be awesome to be brought back as even just a game mode
Mm-hmm.
in a future Mario Kart. Like it doesn't need to be the entire mechanic of the game, but like it's cool and it's just emblematic of what Nintendo was doing in this era, right? They were trying new things. They were reinventing basically every franchise that they had, and including their most successful franchise with Mario Kart. Like it's a really cool innovation that I think it was never going to be something that was going to be in every game, but I'm a little sad that it never carried over to new games. I think it was perfect, like you were saying earlier, you know, having like a little cousin or something in the back, just like launching stuff at people, and it like added a bit more of a strategy too. Also, something that we haven't talked about is the fact that you could hit people with if you're in the back, if you timed it right with the LNR triggers, you could actually hit other racers and kind of throw them off their game, which is something that me and my roommate in college used to do all the time. We'd play the all cups and try and go through all 16 courses at once, and you know, we would just swap depending on what course we knew that we were good at. And yeah, the one in the back would be super strategic and just hit the other the other players when we could.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Like I think that was really cool.
A little bit of road rash thrown in there.
Exactly.
Didn't the second player also assist in drifting as well? Like if they rocked the
Mhm.
D-pad on the second
Mm-hmm.
controller or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, right?
Well, that's another new innovation too, is the power slide in
Mm-hmm.
this. Like, you know, N64 and SNES didn't really have this, so this is like the first time we get a true type of drift in this. There's actually like a lot of innovations in this game that we don't really think of that are now just part of Mario Kart, like the fact that this is the first game to introduce dropping items after like getting hit by a bomb or getting hit by lightning.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't happen before. Obviously, the battle mode with LAN connection. We can talk about that a little bit later, which is kind of crazy that this actually had the ability to have LAN connection, and even like a small one of panning around the course before it started. That was a really cool thing, especially as a kid. I never skipped that. I like to see like all of Yoshi's Island, you know, and or Yoshi's Circuit, and see the whole thing. That was a really neat thing, and something that we completely take for granted now, but is the first time we see it. It was in Double Dash.
Now, I believe the drifting thing, like the power drifts, there were elements of that in previous games, but it was a
Mm-hmm.
lot harder to do. Like in Double Dash, it really, like from what I played of it, it felt a lot more natural. It felt a lot more fluid to get to it. I was trying. I think also it's more visually like striking. I think in the older ones, you would just see smoke, and it was kind of hard to tell when you would actually get the power drift type of thing. But I had no idea that this was the first one where you could where you would drop items if you got hit.
Yeah, just you know, it's Mario Kart Double Dash. Truly an innovative game. That
First, one of the things I watched the Scott the Woz video for this one. One of the things that Scott brought up though in his video for this that I thought was a good point to make is just how chaotic the multiplayer in this game is. Like especially with 4 other players, and you know with LAN cables. This was the first one to do it. You could go up to 16 players if you connected a bunch of GameCubes together. Did either of you guys do that? Like connect GameCubes to player for a Mario Kart LAN party?
I did not, but someone came on our show for this episode and said that yes, they had 16 people with 8 GameCubes, 16 controllers, 8
Oh my
copies of the game, 8
oh my
TVs,
god.
and 8 LAN adapters, which is what you needed to do this.
I did not. I did not have that many friends. So
I still
Yeah,
don't
neither
have
did
that many
I.
friends.
I certainly still don't have that many friends who have GameCubes. So
That
right
is
now it's even rarer.
yeah,
in a post-pandemic world, man. Like no one has friends anymore.
Yeah.
We all just talk to each. Like Veech and I technically could find a way to hang out together, but fuck that. We have the internet. We could just talk over
we have the
this.
internet.
Yeah, exactly.
who needs friends when you can just podcast with people? I mean, but no, that's just so wild to think about. But do you guys agree though with the chaotic nature of this? Do you think this game gets really chaotic with all the different items? I feel like this game specifically is just, it goes balls to the wall with the items. Like there's so much happening all at once.
Well, especially like if you just play nothing but Baby Park, and like, yeah, if you're just playing Baby Park with like the items that are in this game, yeah, I would say that was the most chaotic that this game would get, because it's such a small map. And that's like when me and my friend, whenever we play, like we mostly like just like looping Baby Park for like hours, just like doing that. So yeah, like in that sense, yes.
Glad you're on Team Baby Park, because that was a very divisive subject when we were doing our episode.
Really?
It was about 50-50. So a lot of people hate Baby Park. They're just like, yeah, I just like laps. It's like 8 terrible chaotic laps. I'm like, no, it's awesome.
Well,
I love it.
you know what I think it is because like if you play Baby Park on Mario Kart 8, I feel like it doesn't have the same kind of feel to it. Like
It's true.
it feels a little bit more predictable.
Softened. Yeah.
Yeah, like but in Double Dash, like I do remember it like just being like madness, like chaos, because so many of like the special weapons that a lot of the characters had were like these huge projectiles that would just take out everybody in front of them.
Yep. Chain Chomp on Baby Park.
Yeah.
You better believe you're winning that one. I mean, and the music. Like the music is like the best part about Baby Park. That's
this is like, this is another shout out for this track. I think Mono in the next episode shouts out Baby Park. I think he's also a Baby Park Baby Park stan, as the kids call it. He's a Baby Park stan. But it's funny because that reminds me of, and this actually draws comparisons. I didn't bring this up in the next episode, but I got to stop referencing the next episode. Sorry, everybody. But these games did come out pretty close to actually, no, DS came out in whatever the fuck. I don't know. But this Baby Park specifically, bringing it to what I was going to say, Baby Park specifically actually reminds me of something similar that happened to me with Halo LAN parties. And the reason I bring that up as well, and I forgot to mention in the next episode, was that they actually cited Halo when making Mario Kart DS because of the Wi-Fi play, which this does not have that, but this also has LAN parties, much like Halo is famous for LAN parties. And I had a Halo 1 LAN party, and there's a map on Halo 1 called The Longest, and that's ironic because it's the smallest level in multiplayer. It's just 2 hallways, very similar in design as to how Baby Park is, where it's just an oval, just 2 straightaways. I mean, there's like little dips and like walls and like barricades and stuff in the longest. But what we would do is it's a level designed for 4 to 6 players, and we would put like 14 to 16 on it, and
Love that.
we would put on all rocket launchers and infinite grenades. And I can tell you, the Xbox was not designed to handle that many explosions, because there was numerous times where frames would just drop. Like you wouldn't see anything that was happening on the screen for like minutes at a time, because there was just you had infinite grenades. Why would you ever stop throwing them, even if it hurt you? It didn't matter. The games would go on forever because you would end up hurting yourself so much you would inevitably at least kill yourself 2 to 3 times. And so that would make the match go even longer, because that takes away 1 score from you. Some people would be in the negatives on by accident. It was just, it's just wild. And so I tell that story because it reminds me of what you were saying with Baby Park, how it's just this small level, this small map, and there's just, when there's chaos on there and all the items are going on at once, it's honestly a joy. I love those types of things, and those are the moments that create the best stories in your in times growing up.
Mm-hmm. It's like Nightfire on Phoenix Space, you know,
Yeah.
with explosives on. That's all I could think of when you were
Is
talking about
Phoenix
that.
Base the one with like the water in the center and like
Yep,
the
you
overhang?
got it.
Oh my God, we would do
Yep.
that. My buddy Justin and I called it 2 for the price of 10 because every time you would kill 2 enemies, you would die 10 times.
Yeah. Me and my cousin still play that. We play top agent on that, so it's just like whoever has the least amount of deaths, I guess, at the end wins. It's just like survival basically, and it's hard because there's nowhere to hide. So that's Baby Park. Baby Park. There's nowhere to hide. You're
Mhm.
you're
There's
going hard in that. I love
there's
that.
enemies everywhere.
Yeah,
Now,
it doesn't matter how much distance you put between yourself and last place. There's still
No.
someone there.
'Cause, yeah, if someone gets a chain chomp, like if you're the Koopa and you have 3 red shells, like you're
Yeah,
looking good. Like
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
take out all 4 people in front of you with those.
yeah, but there's also 7 laps, so like you have like it like you could get away with it, but that just means that someone else can just get right ahead of you that
Yeah.
much quicker too.
Yep.
And conversely, what is it? What is it? Wario Park or whatever it is?
Coliseum.
Wario Coliseum. Thank you.
He has his own Coliseum.
That is
Not
only
sure
2
not sure
laps.
what what he did to get a Coliseum. You know, what territory he ruled over
I mean,
to have a
Wario is
Coliseum named
rich.
after him.
That's the whole purpose of his games. He just collects money.
It's true. That's a good point.
Oh, or if it's like, what is it? Just because, Mike, I know you're a hockey fan as well. I don't know if you listen to the Steve Dangle podcast, but they rant about it on there where whenever there's a new like a new stadium, not a stadium, sorry, a new arena built, a new coliseum, they usually get they usually get the city to provide tax money.
Yeah.
So to help them build it. So I wonder if Wario did a little bit of that. He
Oh
he
yeah.
went to the Mushroom Kingdom taxpayers. He's like, listen, I'll build this. I'll build. I can't do a Wario impression. Give me your money to build this Coliseum.
Oh, that's something I'd like to bring up actually right now. We could.
Wario's
This is
tax history.
his tax history.
Wario commits tax evasion.
Yes. Is one thing I love about this game is the characterization of these characters and like the voicing of them. I think this
Yeah.
is the only game I can think of that does it, where they say lines and stuff. Where Baby Mario will be like wah, 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 like when he loses, or when Wario loses, he says, "I lost to a bunch of losers." Like stuff like that is just like it's so funny.
I mean, the other ones had voices, but I think you're right. They didn't really say lines per se.
Yeah.
It was just the little sound effects of the "oh no" or something like that. It was never anything like full dialogue, and especially not in Super Circuit, because that was the GBA one. Though there were voice samples in it.
Mhm.
I wanted to ask you though. You brought it up before, Mike, with the chain chomp. What was everyone's favorite like unique power up? Because this game has all the power ups that you're used to. I shouldn't say all, but it has the power ups that you're used to for the most part. Your green and red shells, your mushrooms, your spiny shell, triple mushrooms, bananas, fake items, stars, and lightning. But then it has a whole bunch of some of them new, but new items, as well as they've locked away some of the previously, like the triple shells. Those you used to be able to get them in other games, but now they are exclusive to the Koopa and the Paratroopa. And then the golden mushroom is exclusive to Toad and Toadette. And shout out to Toadette, first appearance in any Mario game ever. Toadette right
Mhm.
here.
Another innovation.
It's great innovation. But yeah, what are your guys like favorite special items? What was was it the chain chomp? What do you got? I don't know. Mike, we'll start off with you since I started with Veech last time. What was your favorite one?
Well, chain chomp is, I mean, that's the easy one for sure to pick, because it's so much fun to be the babies and just like have this giant chain chomp pulling you through. On our episode, we actually did some research, and apparently the best combination, the ideal combination that you're supposed to have, is Toadette as the driver and King Boo as the item guy. And because this gives you the best combination of kind of bumping with a heavy character as well as the speed of a light one. Plus, you get the golden mushrooms, which is in theory the best item in the game, and Toadette apparently gets it like a higher percentage than others. Others would get their special item. Yeah, this is apparently a thing where Toadette had a little bit of little bit of extra juice. Maybe because she was a new character, they're like, yeah, we'll help Toadette out a bit if people want to pick her.
What about you, Veech? What was your go-to unique item?
Well, I mean, like I said, I always pick the paratrooper because he had the 3 red shells, and it's a little bit of a boring answer, but homing shells are, they stand the test of time. You know what I mean? Just 3 red shells, and you're unstoppable at that point because they give you the defense. Well, actually, I don't know if they technically had collision in this game, but if they did, if they were orbiting, right? Am I right in that?
Yeah, they would hit. Yeah, if they were orbiting and you were beside someone.
But they juggle them in this, don't they? You'll see them juggling the 3 shells.
Oh, do they? I can't remember. It's been so long. Yeah, you might be right. I might.
So in typical Mario Kart, you would be right. They would be orbiting around you. But in this one, since you can't use the extra items as defense, I believe the other character is just holding them. So they'll just kind of like cycle them through and use them, like juggle them, which honestly adds a lot of character to the race. It makes it a lot more interesting, which I think is kind of cool. I out of all the ones I've played, and like I said, this is the last one to be recorded for Mario Month, so I've since dabbled in all the others for this. This one by far seems to have the most character out of all of them. It seems to have there's just a lot of touches with the characters, and the fact that like I said, they'll be juggling the shells, or like Donkey will hold the way Donkey holds the giant banana peel is just amusing. Also, for myself, I can't really say if I had a personal favorite. I guess if I had to choose, it would be Bowser shell, not based off any level of how effective it was, but just for the visual of just this giant fucking shell bowling track. It is one of the most amusing things to me, where like I can imagine if like you're racing along and you somehow dodge it and you just see this giant shell like whoo, going past you, just like ping pong around. Oh my gosh, it would be simultaneously the most terrifying thing you could see, but also hysterical to see who it would hit in front of you.
I also love the massive banana that Donkey Kong, because it's got a face and he's angry.
It's so sad. It's so grumpy.
Yeah, it's a massive grumpy banana.
He's mad at Wario for all that tax evasion.
Yeah.
That's right.
You're the reason I can't have children. It's a big banana sad it can't have little bananas. I don't know. Now we talked a little bit about the racers and how they the different weight classes, everything. I did see something on the wiki. Let me scroll back up to it. I thought it was interesting. Depending on what character combination you had, it would actually dictate the weight of the cart. So if you had 2 lights, it would be a light. If you had a light and a medium, it would be a medium. And if you had light or medium, but the second character was a heavy, it would be heavy. So the heavier weight class always outranks the lower one in terms of the weight of the cart. Do you know, would that like affect so say you picked like a light character and then you got a heavy character to do it, would that give you top acceleration of a light character with the weight of a heavy character? Or does it just go based off of the fact that you have a heavy cart now because of the character?
So I can't remember exactly like if it like locked you out from any of the, like if you picked like a heavy secondary, I don't remember if it completely locked you out from like anything below that or not. Because I think each cart had its own stats.
Yeah, they did. Because I think that's kind of the reason why you want the Toadette and King Boo team, is to have that bump. Like you're able to bump with the cart as a heavy, but you can still have the speed of Toadette.
I see. So you might not have the top speed of a heavy cart, or like the top speed of a heavy cart, but you'll have the acceleration and handling of a light cart, but be heavy enough that you can beat the shit out of the other racers road rash style with the heavy character.
This was a bit of a weird like time for Nintendo, because a similar thing happened in Mario Superstar Baseball, where there's
Mm.
all these underlying metrics that aren't told to you, and you really have no idea what you're in for, and you basically learn from other people. You learn on the schoolyard of like, oh, like, apparently this is the best one to do. Like that's kind of how this era felt like. Like
Mm.
nowadays, it feels a lot of these Mario or Nintendo games are very cut and dry. It's like these are the stats. This is it. There's nothing underlying. There's nothing else going on. Like everything's up here on the screen. But there's something almost magical about like not necessarily knowing exactly what's the best thing, right? And you tell your friend like in school, you're like, well, I have the best cart because of this. And then like they're like, no, like that's wrong. Like my older brother's uncle works at Nintendo and he told me this. Right. So I don't know. I kind of missed that a little bit.
I feel like there should be an entire podcast dedicated to just my older brother's uncle works at Nintendo. Which actually, if it's my older brother's uncle, that's just my uncle.
I realized I was saying it. Yeah.
Well, my best friend's uncle works at Nintendo, and he says,
yeah.
I feel like that could be like that would honestly be a really fun like write-in segment. Like if you do like a Nintendo focused episode, then you have people write in and come up with the best like my uncle works at Nintendo stories.
Just like old Nintendo rumors. I don't know if you guys ever heard this growing up, but I remember there being a rumor for Ocarina of Time. If you got 4 of the bottles and you filled them all with blue fire, and you stood in Zora's domain as an adult and opened all of them in the middle of Zora's domain, you would melt the ice. Did you guys ever hear that?
No.
Oh, that sounds familiar, actually.
That was a rumor that me and my friend somehow came across, and because we were like, oh, because it was thought to, back in the day, there was like the little like island that's in Zora's domain.
Mm-hmm.
There was a rumor because of the way the lighting was that there was a cave under it, and you had to melt the ice to get in there. But like you had to do this whole thing.
Oh yeah, that is very, very familiar. And you're saying that's not true, or is that true?
Well, so it's not true. I mean, I think people do like boundary break stuff now, so they like go and look, and there's nothing down there. But that would be pretty funny, like a whole podcast of like old rumors, stuff like that.
I like that. Could be for our next thing.
That would be really that honestly would be a fun topic. I also who was I talking to? I was I think I was guesting on a show this past weekend, and after we had finished recording, I was telling stories of when I worked at GameStop, and the one person was like, you should just have an episode where people who used to work at GameStop tell stories of all the GameStop shenanigans.
Can I share an idea I had before I defuncted my channel?
Yeah, go for it.
So every Nintendo YouTuber used to work at GameStop. RGT85 or whatever his name is, like Woodhawker, like everybody worked at GameStop. I wanted to film an episode because I used to work at GameStop as well. I worked there for like 6 years. I wanted to film an episode, and I was friends with a manager of a GameStop in our area. And I pitched him the idea. I was like, hey man, I want to film an episode here. I want to pretend I'm like a GA. And I want to like be doing the work while talking about GameStop, because like everybody just records in their house, like in front of their game collection.
Yeah.
I thought it would have been the funniest way to do it is like doing trade-ins, like stocking the shelves and like just talking about working at GameStop. He said he was going to try to swing it, but it didn't end up happening. But I was like so mad that it couldn't happen. I was like, man, this would have been a great idea.
I feel like as long as you could have done it so there was no way for it to come back to that store specifically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like film it so that way it wouldn't have been like there wouldn't have been any, you can't show the windows so they can't see it could only be like the walls and shit.
Yeah.
It would be fucking insane for them to figure out which store was based off of the store layout.
Yeah, of course, especially because they all have to kind of follow the same floor plan. Anyway.
Yep. That's really amusing. But all right, back to Double Dash. I want to ask you guys now, what is your favorite race? Like, who was your go-to racer or racer combos? Mike, you mentioned what the optimal one was, but like, I want to know who was your go-to? Who did you like to race as? And Veech, I'm going to start off with you. What was your favorite one to race as? Who was your go-to?
Paratrooper. Paratrooper across the
Easy.
board.
Both of them? Both racers were
Yeah.
paratrooper?
Well, I don't know why. I always had this like weird gravitation towards like grunt characters. Like
Mm-hmm.
when I played Gears of War, I liked playing the character that had the helmet on. I don't even remember his
Okay.
name, but he had like a helmet. Like everybody else was like Marcus Phoenix and Coltrane and the other guy. They all like had personalities. But whenever I would play multiplayer, I was always like generic soldier B. And like in every game, in GoldenEye, I would play like the white, the guys in the snow outfits.
Okay.
I don't know. I always like the idea of like what stormtroopers were growing up. So
Mm-hmm.
like paratroopers and Koopas were like the soldiers of Bowser's thing. So I would
Yeah.
play them. But if I did like break away from that, so I wasn't just doing triple shells all the time, I would do like paratrooper, and I think I would go with Wario if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about you, Mike? What was your go-to racer duo?
I mean, I usually pick the babies. I liked the babies. Just,
Baby.
I mean, for the same reason as Veech is in terms of being able to get that power up, right? He wanted it for the red shells. I wanted mine for the chain chomp, just because man, chain chomp can change the game for sure. But I mean, I always liked the babies. I thought it was kind of a cool addition for them too. I mean, they were new characters. I don't think they had really been in much stuff before
Other
this.
than Yoshi's Island.
Yeah, other than Yoshi's Island as being like, but that's I don't really consider that like a Mario universe necessarily.
And what are you talking about? It's literally Baby Mario and Baby Luigi.
No, but you know what I mean. Like it's not like a Mario 64. They're not in like the Mario Sports or Mario like the Kart at that point yet, right? So this was like the first time they were in like a
Well,
I
yeah,
don't know, more mainline, I guess. But
they hadn't appeared in anything outside of that game yet.
yeah, exactly. So that was cool to have them, and I hadn't, or maybe I had played Yoshi's Island at that point. I forget, but I was probably actually playing it at the same time because I had it for GBA. But yeah, I always like to pick them. I would pick Boo and PD Piranha sometimes
Mhm.
because I loved PD. I thought he was a lot of fun. I don't think I ever went Toadette, unfortunately, even though she was one of the best ones, and I didn't love going full heavy, but I couldn't resist going PD. So sometimes I would go heavy. But yeah, babies for me, for sure.
I love the additions in this game. Like I like that they added the PD Piranha and King Boo and Toadette. And obviously the Waluigi is also in this. First, I think this is the first appearance of Waluigi in the Mario Kart games, right? He wasn't in Super Circuit, I don't believe.
Only 8 characters in those games in Super
Yeah.
Circuit and N64. So 20 characters, more characters than tracks in this, if you can believe it.
They added a lot of new characters. They added Daisy, they added the two babies, they added Birdo, they added Diddy Kong, they added Paratroopa, they added Waluigi, they added Bowser Jr., they added, like I already said, Toadette, PD Piranha, and King Boo. I think that's all of them. There's just so many new characters in this game, and it gives a lot of variety. I also like just kind of lends itself once again to the amount of character. Like when I say character, it's not just the fact that they added a lot of characters; it's that they all feel like there's a charm to them. You know, like there's like
Absolutely.
a goofy zaniness to them, which is really fun. Yeah, I guess for myself, I just have to go with Daisy. You know, Daisy. Hi, I'm Daisy.
Hi, I'm Daisy.
We'll go with Daisy and Luigi. You know, that team up because aren't Daisy and Luigi supposed to be like together or something like that?
Yeah, they're a thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's Mario and Peach and Daisy and Luigi. So we got to go with Daisy and Luigi. And
Nice.
yeah, I mean, I've said it before throughout the series. The Mario Kart games are a series of games that I desperately wish I liked more. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying they're bad, but I'm doing this series as a way to get a newfound appreciation for them because they've never been something that like if there's a party and people playing Mario Kart, I'm always kind of like, nah, I'm okay. Like it never did. I know I'm one of the few. It just never.
I mean, if Double Dash is in though, different story.
I mean,
Please.
what has been fun about this for me, and I'll say it at the end of the series. If I didn't say it in the episode that's already recorded, I'm going to add a little snippet to the end. I'm going to do a final ranking of the 5 games covered over Mario Month, of like which ones I enjoyed the most, which ones I enjoyed the least, type of thing. I can tell you at least a little bit of a spoiler. Double Dash is up there. Double out of the ones that would have been covered so far, right? Between Mario Kart 64, Super Circuit, and Double Dash, Double Dash is definitely like up there for me. It would actually be in the order that, like, reverse order of what I just said. It'd be Double Dash, then Super Circuit, then 64.
It's hard not to like this game, honestly. Like, even if you're someone who really just came from the world of Mario Kart 8, where it is a little softened, like we were saying before. Like, this game, even though it's definitely more difficult than the new games, it still has so much of a charm to it, like you were saying. And the fact, too, that, like, there's other modes, like battle. The battle mode is so much fun. I have a lot of friends who still love to play battle mode. The bomb mode is just absolute chaos, especially playing that on like the GameCube when there's nowhere to hide. That's another baby park basically. There is playing it on the GameCube with in the bomb mode, bomb battle or whatever it's called. The balloon battle too is fun. I never liked the sun one, the Steal the Sun. That wasn't for me, but the balloon and bomb one were great.
I feel like I liked them all pretty evenly. I would say like anybody like going to Double Dash now, like definitely experience it with like a group of friends.
Yes, yeah.
I think that like what really, especially like growing up playing it, and if you were like me and you never owned a Mario Kart game and you experience it at other people's houses, like that's really what kind of like solidifies those memories too, is like sharing those experiences with people.
I think that's one of the reasons why I always kind of, or why I couldn't always get hooked at it, because it would always be at parties, and since racing games just never do it for me in general. And even though I know this is a kart racer, not just like a pure racing game, it's hard for me to kind of get over that. But and then when I would try it out at home, obviously Mario Kart's meant to be played with friends. It's meant to be a party game. It'd be like playing, Mario Party by yourself. Like, can you do it? And some people find enjoyment out of it. Yeah, there's going to be there's people of all stripes. People are going to find enjoyment out of it. That's awesome. More power to them. But it's just a game that's built on either the rage that you feel towards your friends, or the laughs, or all of the above, the mixture of the two. Now with the battle courses, what was everyone's favorite out of that? I'm assuming it's GameCube since it's been brought up the most, but I figured I at least ask. Like, Mike, what are your thoughts? Like, what are your favorite battle courses?
Luigi's Mansion was my favorite. That was the first time I had like any interaction with Luigi's Mansion, because I got the GameCube in 2003, right? So I hadn't been there at launch to see Luigi's Mansion, and that's the first time I saw it. And it's actually a huge course. Like, it's kind of sad that it wasn't its own actual course in this game, and then it got kind of reduced to a battle course. But I love that so much. There's different levels, different layers of it too. There's that long hallway as well in it, and that kind of put me onto Luigi's Mansion. I was like, ooh, like, what's this from? Like, I gotta try this out now.
What about you, Veech? Any battle courses that were your preferred course to battle in?
Yeah, I would say the 3 that's always were kind of like regularly rotated were Block City, the GameCube level, and Luigi's Mansion as well. Because I think like all 3 of them gave you enough variety. Like obviously the GameCube, like it was open, kind of nowhere to hide, nowhere to really go. It was just kind of like just straight up battling. Block City was a little bit bigger, gave you enough room, like some verticality. You could hide a little bit, and then like Mike was saying, Luigi's Mansion, you had the verticality, and there was like more space, so you could kind of get away a little bit if you were in a spot, or chase someone down, or kind of get like an advantage point on someone.
Mm-hmm. I wish I could say I had one, but I don't, because I didn't really play this a lot with friends. So I'm not going to really play battle mode by myself when prepping for this. So out of the ones that I see here, the GameCube looks cool. And honestly, so does Pipe Plaza. I kind of like that idea of just driving in one pipe and coming out the other. Now moving over to the general courses, I'm the tracks and everything. I feel like we at least have to shout out our favorite tracks. You know, like which ones speak out to you the most? Which do you have a favorite cup even? Well, you know, let's start with that. Let's do a cup check. All right, and what is your favorite cup in Double Dash? And then after that, what would be your favorite course? So, Veech, I want to throw it over to you.
Mhm.
Yeah, favorite cup and then favorite course.
I don't know if I necessarily have a favorite cup. I feel like with every Mario game or every Mario Kart, each cup has like will have like really strong stuff, and then there'll be like one like weak track, and you're kind of like, eh. So I mean, me personally, I wouldn't say I have a favorite cup, but I will say like the courses that stand out the most to me, like that I remember, like even before they were like kind of like put back into Mario Kart 8, would be like Daisy's Cruiser, obviously Baby Park,
That's such a
and
cool idea for a level or for a course. The day, like
Yeah.
driving around on a cruise ship. That's so cool.
yeah, and I remember like back then, like we mentioned before, like Mario Kart 8, like it does feel like everything's a little bit more accessible with Mario Kart 8. Like for some reason, I remember Daisy's Cruiser on the GameCube being way harder. Like I would always get like hit by a table as it was like going across the room
Yep.
when you would go into the dining hall. Um, and I want to say Mushroom City and probably DK Mountain like stand out in my head like the most out of all the courses as well.
That rickety bridge in DK Mountain.
Mhm.
So many people have fallen on lap 3. Oh, hurts my soul.
Does it, or do you get a big kick out of it
I mean, sometimes I was the person
Yeah,
kicking
you
them
would.
off.
with that
But
heavy
uh,
character being able to knock them off?
that's right. My favorites probably. I'm definitely the same way. Where like I don't know if I have a favorite cup because you're often picking and choosing when you're playing versus. Um, I mean, maybe the special cup because there's a lot of unique courses. Like it's got Wario Coliseum, it's got Dino Dino Jungle, which I love, Bowser's Castle and Rainbow Road. Rainbow Road on Mario Kart Double Dash is okay. I'd say there's definitely better Rainbow Roads out there, but Dino Dino Jungle is a underrated track. What a great track that is, and so many shortcuts. Actually, that's something that we haven't even talked about yet. Is all the different shortcuts in this game and how every track. I think every track has at least one shortcut. And sometimes the shortcuts aren't seem like they're actually worse than taking the normal way. Because Dino Dino Jungle, I don't know if you guys remember, but there's like a bunch of those bridges that you can go around, and there's some that are really, really, really narrow,
Mm.
and it's really hard to get on there. But if you do, there's a bunch of the speed boosts that are there to help you speed up. And I always would try and do that, and I would really succeed, but that was always a favorite. So yeah, Dino Dino Jungle. I already mentioned Warrior Coliseum. I mean, definitely the same with DK Mountain and Daisy Cruiser being fantastic. There's honestly very few here that I don't like. Like maybe like that's even a better question is the ones that we don't like, and it would maybe probably be like Luigi's Circuit. Like I don't know any of the circuits like that just didn't really do anything new, but I don't know. All the tracks are good.
I think something I'm noticing with these tracks, and we touched on it in the Super Circuit episode, where like Super Circuit had like a lot of like generic tracks, but then they have a lot. Then they would have that random wonky one like Cheese Land or whatever it was.
Mm.
Um, this one feels like it's takes that goofy aspect of Super Circuit and amps it up in a good way. Like every track, like you have your generic ones like Luigi Circuit and Mario Circuit, but then you literally go to like staying in the Mushroom Cup. You have Baby Park. Yes, it's very simple, but the fact that it's called Baby Park and there's like goofy like trains on the side and one with giant fucking noses, like that's just silly. Going on to the next one, the Daisy Cruiser, like you mentioned, Veech,
Mhm.
Waluigi Stadium, which is like a full like dirt bike track. Going on to the Star Cup, Sherbert Land, the entirety
Mm.
of the Star Cup is just silly. Sherbert
Yeah.
Land, Mushroom City, there's like caterpillar buses that you're dodging, and Yoshi Circuit is literally just a giant Yoshi. Uh, that you're just driving around, and then DK's
Genius.
Mount. Yeah, it's a really
Like
smart
honestly,
idea.
Yoshi Circuit is like whoever designed that, like kudos for them for actually making a workable track that is in the shape of Yoshi. Like
I think what I've come to appreciate in the Mario Kart games, and I don't think I bring this up in any other episode, is honestly the course design. And I don't think I truly appreciated it before doing this series, just because, you know, since I never really was that invested in them. I would just do the race. I'm like, yeah, this is fun, and people like these games, and it's fine. Like I can see why people like them. It's just not my cup of tea. But the more I do this series, the more I'm like, man, this is a really clever and unique idea for a race course. Like, it's not just a circle or a loop de loop or a figure eight. I mean, or like, here, let's just drive around in a picturesque, not picturesque, but like a jungle. But each one has like a unique theme and idea, and they have goofy things that you see. Like, there's just tons of interesting ideas thrown into them. I mean, the fact that Baby Park is the shortest track, and so they pace it out with 7 laps to make it similar in length to the normal standard 3 laps.
Mhm.
And then they do Wario Coliseum, which is so damn long that they only do 2 laps because it's so
mhm.
damn long. And they just threw a bunch of unique ideas into this. And the thing that I've really come to know and love about doing these episodes is this is a weird connection, but that stereotype where it's like you could get a bunch of sports nerds, like a bunch of guys in a room, and just name an athlete, and everyone's like, oh my god, yeah, like, oh, Michael Jordan, oh my god. Like, especially if you go deep in a specific sport. Like, I was listening to a hockey podcast earlier today, and they would just name like random obscure Toronto Maple Leafs, like, oh, Babe Dye, oh my god, he was a stuff like that.
Colton Orr.
And
No, just obscure.
um I was going to try to name an obscure flyer since that's my team, but I can't even, like, I haven't been following long enough.
Eric Desjardins. That he's not
He's
obscure.
not obscure, no. But like, I feel like that mentality, that stereotype of, just like jock sports dudes, just you name a player and that's all they need to do to have a conversation. Nothing else added to the context, like nothing about the player, just going, oh my god, that guy. I feel like that's the same with Mario Kart fans and just naming a course. You just name like Daisy Cruiser. Oh my god, Daisy
Ah.
Cruiser. Oh, I love that course. Yeah, yeah. Oh, but what about Luigi Circuit? Oh my god, that was one of the best first tracks in all the game. And then you go to like Mario Kart Wii, like Coconut Mall. Oh my god, I'm in heaven. Like, I do though. I feel like that. Like, if you're a
Mhm.
fan of the Mario Kart games, all you need to do is say a track name, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, I'm right there with you. I can see it. I can smell the rubber in my nostrils." I I I I I think that's why I've wanted to do this series, is because I've been a little envious of Mario Kart fans, where it's like you can do that. Like, I can do that with other game series, like, maybe, I don't even know, but like, I'm kind of
Metal
envious of the
arms.
fact. Metal Arms, yeah. Oh my god, Metal
Nice.
Arms. Shout out to that gem. Have you actually gotten to play that yet, Mike?
Yeah, Neil bought it.
He finally bought it.
Or bought it, or I don't know. He got it somehow, and yeah, it's what a crazy game that is. My god.
Josh, how many people have you put on to Metal Arms? Because you got me to get it, and I guess you got this other guy to get it.
Did you like it, Veech? Did you enjoy what you played of it?
Yeah, I don't think I beat it, but I got pretty far. There was like one level where I was like playing it and I was like, I don't know about this, Josh. I don't know if I forget what it was. I think you take control of like a really big robot at some point.
Yeah,
Like
at some point.
it was like a little jank, like that part. But other than that, like the game is fun. It's definitely like a hidden gem on the GameCube. So like I when I worked at GameStop, I saw it all the time, and I was like, "What is this game? Like, what even is this?" But no,
That's so funny.
it's definitely a fun game. Yeah.
That makes me so happy. Yeah, I've been turning so many people onto this game just because it's a hidden gem, man. But anyway, sorry, not to derail the conversation entirely, but it's I've been jealous of Mario Kart fans of that, just like that. Like, you can think of a game and you have all these strong memories tied to them, and I it passed over me, or I passed over it. So I've been this series honestly has become one of the most memorable ones for me, just for like I don't know. I've enjoyed prepping for all of these. I've enjoyed the conversations I've had with all of the wonderful guests for this. And this sounds like, this is like an end of the series rant. There's still 2 more episodes after this, but like it's I've really enjoyed this. I've really enjoyed this series is what I'm trying to say. It's been really fun to do. All right, we should move on though. I think what I want to do to kind of wrap up the episode before we go into final thoughts and everything is just actually, sorry, hold on. Okay. Um, is just how personal strategies, like what was it like Veech, you mentioned like the triple shells, and
Hmm.
Mike, you like the chain chomp, but in terms of just like regular items, like what would be your go-to if you had the choice, or in conjunction, like how would you what type of strategies would you employ? Like I'm awful at these games, so I honestly my strategy is uh just get a red shell and throw shit at people and just hope that I can make it to the next lap. But my strategy has been very hit or miss. So I don't know. Mike, we'll start off with you, I guess. Like what are some of your like strategies, and were there power ups that you would focus on, or did you have any preferred power ups throughout the game?
So definitely, I would say getting the double blocks. That's number one. Gotta make sure you get your double blocks instead of getting the single blocks, because obviously huge advantage if you have that. Um, I'd say maybe one of the biggest ones is trying to get mushrooms and hold on to them whenever you can. Because one thing that I actually really love in this game is the fact that you can kind of hoard items in a way, right? If you get the double block and you have 2 items, you can switch Zed.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can click Z and change your
You
guy.
could say Zed. My listeners are smart enough to know what you're talking about. I hope
Fair.
so.
You can change your character, and you can hoard items that way. So one thing I would do a lot is whenever I was able to get maybe a banana and a mushroom, I'd always put the mushroom away basically, and use the banana and then switch it again, so that I would have a chance to kind of just hold that mushroom until I had there was an area where I could kind of speed through, because like I talked about, there are a lot of shortcuts in this game, a lot of shortcuts present, and there's a lot of areas in these courses where if you just use a mushroom to go through that small patch or whatever, you
Hmm.
can beat out people very easily. You can gain like 2-3 seconds on them, which is obviously huge in Mario Kart. So I'd say that was like one of my number one strategies, and I guess just looking for shortcuts in general.
Veech, what about you? Any go-to strategies or favorite items? Even it doesn't have to be, like I said. I already asked what your favorite specialty item was. Unique to the character. But what about just the generic ones? Was there any ones that you liked?
As far as like generic items, I mean, of course, Mario Kart distributes items based on your positioning. So, like, if you're in the front, you're kind of just
All
getting like,
bananas.
yeah, it's like mushrooms and bananas.
Yep.
In I would say like the lightning is always great. Um, when you're in that position and you really need to catch up. As far as like strategy goes, kind of in the same vein as Mike, like with like hoarding items, like even if like you have like something I would do and still do, like even like on modern Mario Kart games is, even if I have like both item slots occupied, you still go for the double block to deny anybody behind you. So
Hmm.
they then are only getting like one item uh, at that point, rather than like having the potential of like getting something that could take you out.
Hmm.
I was always really bad at shortcuts back when I was younger, so it was mostly just like trying to learn how to drift properly, get the speed boost properly, like, and not just run off the road. I feel like it was way easier in older Mario Kart games to just end up like running yourself off the road back then.
Hmm. I'm still bad at shortcuts, so I feel your pain. Uh,
Yeah.
and actually, I was just thinking about this. I I had it in my mind before we started talking about the strategy, but the other thing I wanted to bring up, that I wanted to ask you guys about is just and this can be our final like wrap up type of thing, a wrap up bit
Mhm.
of conversation before shout outs and whatnot and final thoughts and shout outs. Um, the visuals and music. We have to talk about that. Like that's like obviously it's one of the most important aspects of the game specifically. I'll kick it off first, and then I'll throw it back over to you, Veech. I love the visuals of this game. I think they're beautiful. I think maybe beautiful is not the right term, but they look fantastic. I really like I think it's better looking than Mario Kart Wii personally. Obviously better looking than the handhelds and whatnot up until this point, but I think it's one of the best looking Mario Kart games. One of the cool things, and this is kind of ties with programming, but also with visuals. This was the first Mario Kart game where all four wheels could move independently. So little tiny touches like that were really cool. The dual racer mechanic and like the visuals were inspired by motorcycle sidecars, and obviously they did not go with the sidecar aesthetic. They kind of took the sidecar and put it back behind the cart, but that all kind of like lends into the overall visual style of it. There's a couple other like little fun facts I'll get into that I forgot to bring up as we were talking about. Actually, this one kind of it's apropos since we were just talking about power ups. Donkey Kong, his original special item was going to be a barrel instead of the banana, and they opted that the team tested it out and they determined that it didn't really work well, so they opted for the banana, the big banana. And they also considered adding a double jump mechanic, which I thought was kind of interesting to hear about. But yeah, sorry, that was a little bit. I just realized we were getting close to the end, and I did a little bit of research on some like things they added to the game and just little fun facts, and I forgot to bring those up. So yeah, the visuals are fantastic. The music is great too. I think in general Mario Kart just has good music, and I feel bad because I feel like I say that every single time. But the composer of this was Shinobu Tanaka and Kenta Nagata, and I feel like Kenta Nagata doesn't he do like all the Mario Kart games or something like that? He does a lot. He was also the composer for 1080 Snowboarding, so there we go with that.
Oh,
I love
Yeah.
1080 snowboarding.
oh, great game.
He was the composer for Mario Kart 64. He was the composer for New Super Mario Bros. 2, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, Mario Kart 7. Or he has music credits in them, Super Mario Run. So he's done a lot of work in this. Now, I'd have to double check because, okay, here we go. Here's his full list of credits. I was like, why don't I see Double Dash on there? Yes, he did Double Dash. He did Pokemon Stadium. He did, I mean, he did Mario Kart 8. Like, this dude has been around, and I like the music a lot. Visuals and music are fantastic. I think this is up until, I haven't really played 7, but up until 7, definitely 8, possibly 7. This is the best looking Mario Kart game in my opinion. So Veech, I want
It
to throw
looks
it over.
beautiful.
It does. It's so good looking. Sorry, Veech, go ahead, go into it, and then I'll throw it over to you, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, like graphically, the game still holds up. I would say you could easily jump back into it and not have, with like some older games, like sometimes like you kind of have to like give yourself like a little bit of a buffer to kind of like adjust to older graphics. Like I'm looking at like screenshots right now of the game, and like some of the texture detail isn't like the greatest, but especially back then, like we were okay with flatter looking textures. And I would say that like, especially at the speed that the game plays at, like it's not too distracting. It's not going to pull you out of it too much. I also really like the colors of the game, because especially like back then people were playing like Super Mario Sunshine. It was very bright, it was very vibrant. Like Mario Kart Double Dash, like still kind of held that same aesthetic. The colors in this game, like everything's very saturated. If you look at like Mario Kart 8, like a screenshot from that, because of like the realistic lighting that they're going for with like modern games, the colors they don't pop as much. Everything has like kind of like a little bit of like a duller hue to that. So yeah, I mean, I unfortunately I don't remember the music too much besides Baby Park, obviously, because it's been burned into my brain. But yeah, Nintendo always was. I think Nintendo always did a fantastic job, like in the graphics department. in any game that they made, especially back then up until now. As much as people like to give them a hard time, I think if you look at it from like a non-bias perspective, like especially like as someone who has like a background in art, you can see that how they really push themselves with each iteration.
I too have a background in art, and I agree. Yeah, this game is really beautiful. I mean, most games on the GameCube were really well done in that sense. Like, it's still very playable today. Like you were saying, Veech, like you don't have to necessarily like arm yourself and get ready for like like crazy polygons and like the N64 is certainly rough in a lot of ways in that sense, and it is a bit difficult to go back to if you're a modern gamer who plays modern games. But yeah, Double Dash still looks great. Still looks fantastic. The frame rate looks great too, especially playing on the GameCube. Like it runs super smoothly. It's so bright. It's so colorful. One thing I wanted to mention is the fact that it's interesting how much Double Dash leaned into the sunshine aesthetic that they had going on. Like in the music, for sure, the music is very reminiscent of Sunshine. I mean, when you win, the parade is all the pinata people or whatever they're called that are there. Like the whole aesthetic of the games feels very sunshiny. I mean, even with the Shine Thief battle mode or whatever, right? So I thought it was interesting how far they lean into. Like you don't see that really ever again. You don't see that with obviously an Odyssey theme or a Mario Galaxy theme. Like that never came up. But for whatever reason, in the GameCube era, Nintendo was like all in on Sunshine. Let's go! Like every Mario game has to be almost Sunshine themed, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, just a beautiful game, and also great box art. Gotta say, gotta give a shout out to the case. Of course, on our podcast, we read the back of the case.
I was just about to say, Mike.
Game.
I think
I can read it if you want.
I think that we should do. I think we should bring back the GameCube was cool in a slight way and read the back of the case for this.
All right, I will do it right now. Double the fun. Take all the crazy action of the celebrated Mario Kart series and multiply it by 2. In Mario Kart Double Dash, each kart holds 2 racers that can switch places at any time. So choose from a huge cast of favorites and pair them up any way you see fit. And there's also the French version on here too, because it's a Canadian case.
Can you read the French version?
I can. I'm fluent.
Okay, I won't make you do that.
No, please.
That's funny. I think going after Sunshine's vibe overall was super smart, because regardless, Sunshine is a polarizing Mario game for sure. It's got its flaws. One thing I think that game does right more than anything else is just vibes. It is just a really like fun feeling game. Like especially Mario's movement in that game is awesome. But like I think just in general, the music, the visuals, like how the color palette they chose, it just pops. And I think that whole vibe of Sunshine meaning with this is just perfect. I think it's a great compliment to Mario Kart, because Mario Kart in general has a happy vibe to it, despite the fact that you're throwing shells and giant fucking Bowser shells and chain chomps at each other. But it's got a fun vibe to it. So I think that was a smart choice.
I do want to kind of touch on something that Mike said about the cover. I don't know why I've never noticed this, but look at how like threatening Diddy Kong looks on the cover of the game. I don't think I've ever seen him.
I'm gonna get you,
yeah,
Daisy.
just
I'm
like
taking you down.
just straight up pointing at him like you're done. You're done.
It's the origin of the Luigi death stare.
Yeah. This is like where it evolved from.
Fun. Actually, it's funny since you're talking about the cover. In Scott the Waz's video, he brings this up. If you zoom in on Luigi's hat, the L is backwards.
Yep.
Oh.
Yes.
You can see, yeah.
I do see that, yeah.
Just the bottom.
I don't know why.
Maybe they flipped some art by accident.
I guess. I mean, no one's gonna notice too. Like they probably it's one of those things where it's like they noticed after the fact, and it's like, oh, it's gonna cost so much money to re-render this. No one's gonna. You can barely see like the white part of his hat, but of course, Nerds be nerds, and I use that as a compliment because I am one. You're gonna find some shit. I guess you just thought of one other thing because you brought it up at the very beginning of the episode, Mike, and I feel bad that we didn't start off the episode with it. The
Oh.
the demo disc that came with the special edition with
Yes.
and this will, I keep saying we have one more. This is the last thing, and then I'm like, oh fuck, here's something else we could talk
There's so
about.
much cool stuff. Yeah.
Yes, there's a whole bunch of interesting stuff on that demo disc. There was a bunch of demos. There was what is it? I think 5 demo, or no, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah,
Mario
5
Party 5, F-Zero
Mario Party
GX,
5. Yep, F-Zero
Sonic
GX,
Heroes,
Rogue Squadron 3,
Wow.
and
TMNT.
TMNT.
The cell shaded one. That's actually really good.
Then it had trailers for Crystal Chronicles, 1080
Yes.
Avalanche, Pokemon Coliseum, which was apparently a Japanese pre-release trailer, Kirby Air Ride trailer, along with a trailer for the cartoon Kirby Right Back at Ya, a trailer for Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup, and 2 other trailer for SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom, which is now like a cult, not a really, I guess it is kind of a cult classic at this point. Like people who played that game adore that game so much so there was an HD remake that came out a few years ago, right?
Mm-hmm. Speak speedrunning community on that game.
Yes, a huge speedrunning community. And then also a trailer for NBA Live 2004. Also a good Scott the Woz joke. Anyone feel inspired to buy NBA Live from the Mario Kart Double Dash bonus disc? I don't know.
I mean, I was inspired to ask for most of those games on the Mario Kart bonus disc,
including NBA Live 2004.
Not that one, but the ones that I could play, I asked for. I miss demos. Like demo disc was such a cool thing. I loved playing these demos. Like some of them I never actually got. Like I never got the full games. Like I never got Sonic Heroes. But like I had it was like burned in my memory. Like some of the levels that you could play on those demos, and they were pretty long. Like it wasn't like a 30-minute thing. It was like they gave you just like a large area to play in. So it's cool.
And the last part of it on that demo disc was 2 soundtrack pieces and various, like, I think it's like visual stuff, like screenshots and art pieces, from Fire Emblem.
Oh,
that was the last little bit for there. But all right, we can wrap this episode up. I think we can talk about some final thoughts. Where does this game stand in your personal pantheon of Mario Kart games? I already said a little bit earlier, up until this point, the 3 games we have covered this month, this is the best one out of the 3 that has been covered so far this month. You'll find my full opinion at the last episode of Mario Month, but at least up until this was by far the best one. And it's interesting because this game was really polarizing when it first came out. Like it didn't review nearly as well as the other as its Mario Kart predecessors. There was even one publication that gave it 5 out of 10, which I think is like way too low. Like it's really like 5 out of 10 means it's a bad game. Like not just like a 1 would be, like it's unplayable, but like a 5 is like it's straight up bad. And this is not straight up bad. I mean, I don't know. Like, the point I've been trying to get across when I bring up in this series that I'm not a Mario Kart fan is that it's not to say the series is bad in any way, shape, or form. It's just that it's never been my cup of tea. So this has been my way of trying to, try to drink some tea, trying to learn how to enjoy it. And so far it's been very enjoyable, to say for sure. But I'm just surprised that like a 5 out of 10 would be to me like, I don't like Mario Kart games, so this game's a 5 out of 10, when you shouldn't be grading it like that. Like if you don't like Mario Kart games, that's fine, but like you should be grading it compared to how does this game do as a Mario Kart game? Is it successful at being what Mario Kart is supposed to be? And yes, and it iterates on things. Like I really wish they would bring back the dual racer mechanic, because that's the only time I've seen that obviously in a Mario Kart game. And not that I've played a ton of other kart racer games, but like I've played, like Crash Team Racing. I've played I've dabbled in Diddy Kong Racing once or twice, and like there's other ones, later on that would come out. There's the Burger King kart racing game that came out, but like you still would never really see stuff like that anymore. And I really wish there'd be more risks taken, like this dual racer mechanic. I think it's a really cool idea, and also the unique items I think are really interesting. They break the game a little bit, but it makes the game so chaotic, which is what it's kind of supposed to be for playing with friends. I think it's awesome. So yeah, I I'm I don't know why it got a 5 out of 10 on for it was from Edge. That's what it was. It was Edge magazine. So fuck Edge. They're wrong. That's all I gotta say. But no, I like this game. Out of the 3 that I've covered so far for this month, this is by far the best. It's fantastic. Veech, I'm going to throw it over to you. Your final thoughts on Double Dash?
So as far as like where it stands, like with other Mario Kart games, am I understanding the question correctly?
Your person, like your final thoughts on the game, and then yes, where it stands in your personal pantheon of Mario Kart.
Sure. My final thoughts. I mean, I definitely think it's a unique experience, especially because like you said, we never saw another situation where we had like 2 racers on a cart.
Mhm.
It is how Mike touched on earlier in the podcast. Like it kind of implemented, or it kind of started trends that we would see throughout the rest of the Mario Kart series. With the speed boosts and the item drops and stuff like that. Like things that I know happen, but I don't, for some reason in my mind, I'm just like, oh yeah, that's always been a part of Mario Kart. But like going back and thinking of it, like, oh yeah, in 64, when you got hit by something, you still had your item. Like, it's not like those went flying anywhere or anything like that. Uh, it's definitely worth playing. If you can find a cheap copy, because I think they're like $80 right now on eBay. If you can find an affordable copy, definitely pick it up. Or if you know somebody, see if you can play it with them. Like I had stated, though, a lot of the enjoyment of this game comes from because I was playing it with friends. I think that if I played it solo, I would still enjoy it, but I don't know if I would have given it I don't think it would like sit the same way with me as it does now. As far as like where it stands compared to some of the other Mario Kart games, now I haven't played all of them. Obviously, I played the SNES, the 64. I played Mario Kart 7. I missed the Wii. I didn't have a Wii. And which ones am I missing? Super Circuit I didn't play because that was just basically like SNES the way that I saw it. I know it wasn't, but in my brain I was like, that's just SNES.
Mhm.
Well, you just have to listen to the episode when it comes out to learn all about
Yeah.
it.
And which one am I missing? Any? Like obviously 8, but like between Double Dash and 7.
Just
Um,
DS, Wii, 7, and 8. I think that's it.
okay, I think I did play DS as well. I would say top 2. Uh,
Okay.
top 2. I honestly I do like Mario Kart 8 a little bit more, just because of how much content you get out of that game. With the
Hmm.
online play and just how many courses there are, and you can play that game, forever if you really want to. But I would say like Double Dash is right behind it just because of how unique it is. It stands out compared to any other Mario Kart game that there is.
All right, Mike, what about you? Final thoughts, and where does it rank in your pantheon of Mario Kart games?
I mean, I think it's just a fantastic, unique game, and really to echo everything Reach was saying, like I really wish that Nintendo would kind of go back to that this risky time almost where they were taking risks, doing things a little differently, trying new things for sure. I wish that we had some of the stuff back in Mario Kart today, like just even little things. Like I kind of miss that we used to be able to see exactly how like your time when you finished a race. You got to see exactly how many milliseconds you beat someone out by. You don't have that anymore, or you don't see what your speed is. It's like 500 miles per hour or something on Double Dash, and you don't see that the speed gauge is gone on new Mario games or Mario Kart games. It's a little sad. It's I kind of lament and wish that we could have some more Double Dash stuff in newer Mario Kart. If we ever get a Mario Kart 9, which I'm sure we will for the next Switch console,
Hmm.
we'll definitely have that. But hopefully we can bring back a little bit of Double Dash. I was very, very happy when Deluxe brought back the double blocks. That was very cool. But still a long way to go, Nintendo. Come on, just give me Double Dash on the Switch. We'll call it even. But yeah, no, it's my favorite Mario Kart game for sure. I mean, obviously the nostalgia factor is huge growing up with it, but also the fact that I can still play it today. Like I can just pick it up without missing a beat. And it's been a big part of my life in a lot of different stages, like obviously as a kid, but I have really good memories of playing it in college. I have great memories of playing it like now too as an adult, like bringing people over for the first time, playing it as well. Like it's a great game. I think 8 is fantastic in terms of its accessibility. Everyone can play it. There's a billion courses on it, but there is something about 8 that leaves a little bit to be desired, for especially for the remake of the GameCube and N64 courses, which were very hard at the time. Like Veech was saying with the Daisy Cruiser, how those tables would hit you, and now it feels a little easier. It feels a little too accessible. In my opinion, I and even like something like the power slide, like you don't seem to get that full power and that full slide that you would normally get in Double Dash. Like I feel like I'm going faster in Double Dash at times as well. So and mirror mode, Double Dash brought mirror mode to us. That's another innovation. I just remember that right now that we take for granted. But yeah, it's my number one. I'll love it forever. It'll be always one of my favorite games of all time for sure. And yeah, I'm just glad that I was able to come on this podcast today and talk about it.
I'm glad both of you were able to make it on for this episode. Like I was saying, like this is the last one to be recorded. So I was like, oh God, please don't reschedule because I don't have a lot of time until this is due out. But no, thank you both for joining me. This has been a wonderful conversation. I've loved doing this Mario month stuff, exploring the Mario Kart games, and I'll save a sappy thing for the last episode because I would give it now since it's the last recording session of the whole month. But I'll record something if it I don't even remember what I said in the Mario Kart Wii episode. When I edit it, I'll find out again, and then I'll either. If I didn't put anything there, I'll make sure to put something in. But yeah, this has been awesome. Thank you both for joining me. Where can the good people find you online? And is there anything you'd like to promote? Veech, we'll start off with you. Is there any social media you want to plug? I know your YouTube channel is defunct currently, but if you would like to plug it, feel free to do so, or anything else. So yeah, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really active as far as like promoting my own stuff. I did leave Bite Size Pixel up for anybody that was subscribed or would come across it, to see some of my opinions. When I last recorded my last episode, I said I might return to it. I've been kicking around the idea. I might go in a different direction if I do go back to it. It's just, there's still some things in the works with what's going on in the video game industry right now. So, it's no bueno.
No, it's rough out there for game devs.
Yeah,
right now. Already,
really
what is it, like 7,300 layoffs already this year? Maybe,
I can tell you, like personal experience, 4 out of 5 animators that I know are laid off. 4 out of 5.
Insane.
Yep.
That's insane.
It's rough.
That's a whole nother conversation too for another day. Just with, I'm mad at the game industry right now.
But unfortunately, nothing for me. But Bite Size Pixel is always there if you do want to check it out.
Yeah, I'll include a link to Bite Size Pixel in the show notes if you want to check it out. But yeah, Mike, over to you. Any social media you want to plug your podcast? Go for it. What do you got?
Yeah, so I am one half of the Unlocking What Was Cool podcast. We talk about all things retro from our childhood, all kind of things from the 90s, 2000s. We, of course, were formerly the GameCube Was Cool podcast. We still talk about GameCube stuff from time to time, of course, because we can't get away from the GameCube. We are taking a hiatus for most of 2024. And so you might be listening to this in the far future when we're back. You might be listening to this right now when we're not back, but our Instagram channel is still live. Of course, it's at What Was Cool Pod, and you can find our episodes wherever you get your podcasts. And we have lots of fun episodes, including episode number 59, Mario Kart Double Dash. I would say if you want to get even more content for Double Dash and probably hear most of the same opinions echoed, you can listen to that episode as well, and you can listen to us in 2021 when we're wee little lads.
Definitely go check out the show. I love unlocking what was cool. I obviously loved what you did with the GameCube was cool back when it was just strictly the GameCube, strictly a GameCube podcast. But I like how you and Neil pivoted into something that's a little bit more freeing for you. You're not just, as much as you love the GameCube, like you said, it's now you're not. Now you can cover movies and music, and I know I don't know if both of you are, but I believe Neil is at least a big ska fan. So there's lots of ska talk.
Look, we got to include ska as much as we can. No, I love some ska too, but in the future we'll probably be getting a little more streamlined, a little more specific of what we do again. But it's been a really nice break to kind of just talk about whatever we want for a while, especially when we had to cover a bunch of games that we really didn't want to talk about. Sometimes there were some games on the GameCube that are barely worth covering, and luckily there was tons that were amazing and some of our favorite games of all time to balance it out, though.
Well, it's a wonderful podcast. Go check it out. I'll have a link to actually I can get it to your website, so I'll have a link to your website in the show notes. And yeah, well, as for myself, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Twitch, at Still Loading Pod, at Still Loading Podcast on YouTube. If you want to support the show, please give it a 5-star rating or review on Apple Podcasts or whichever podcasting app you use. It really helps more people find the show. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy, and who doesn't like feeling warm and fuzzy? But it really helps more people find the show, which helps the algorithm and all that stuff. So if you want to support the show, it doesn't cost you anything. It's just a little bit of time just to write some nice words in a 5-star review. If you do want to support the show monetarily, there is patreon.com/stillloadingpod. For $1 a month, you'll get all the episodes a little bit earlier with better audio quality, as well as access to patron voting rights, where you get to guide the direction of the show by voting on future topics, which actually, now that I'm looking at this, when this episode drops, there's going to be a poll in like a week or so, in a week or so for the next patron poll topic. There's going to be 4 games up there, and you can vote to choose which one you want me to cover on the show in the future. That's all at the $1 level. At the $3 level, you'll get everything previously, plus you can, if you so choose, you can get your name read at the beginning of the episode, like you heard here. Some wonderful patron shout outs. At the $4 level, you get everything I mentioned prior, plus access to 2 mini bonus episodes every month. And then at the $5 level, you'll get everything, all the tiers prior, plus access to Still Bonding, which is my monthly James Bond podcast where me and a bunch of friends bond over 007. And the time this episode comes out, The World Is Not Enough will have either just been released or actually, now that I'm looking at it, would be like maybe a week and a half prior on March 8th, hopefully. But yeah, that's when that is coming out. And in fact, Mike here is going to be on April's episode for Casino Royale. Mike's going to be on that episode. So if you want more of Mike and you want to check out all the cool stuff there, that is all over at patreon.com/stillloadingpod. And that is it. That is all the time I have for you today. Thank you all so much for joining me. Veech, Mike, thank you once again for hopping on.
Of course. Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Josh. Thank you.
And with all that said, listeners, I will see you all next time.